Just a little bit about us. We're Australia and New Zealand's first and only payment experience platform, and we have been working with so many different councils all around Australia and New Zealand. If we look over in New Zealand, we're seeing a little bit of difficulty in terms of the economy right now, with GDP being affected and a little bit of a slide in real income. We also see that unemployment has also hit a 9-year high, officially rising to 5.3%. And that's something that obviously has a flow over effect to our ratepayers and our communities. And over the ditch here in Australia as well, we also did some research, didn't we, across different rates and revenue leaders in local government, and they also were seeing the same patterns, weren't they?
Yeah, so as a part of our research, we surveyed hundreds of councils across particularly New South Wales and Victoria. And what we found is that nearly 60% of people were finding that arrears was going to continue to grow. So there's a bit of proof in the pudding here.
But from a high level, we're still seeing a lot of councils do some of these things. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was a portal. And basically what this means in effect is that a user has to come in, or a ratepayer or someone who receives a fine or infringement, and they have to manually sign up to this first before they get any value. Now, even if they do sign up, they often come into here and can't find what they want, or they get frustrated when our tech updates that we need to run every couple of months to keep things working result in elements not positively flowing through to that person and their situation. So we're seeing a trend towards portal-less systems. And what that means is sending someone a notification or a reminder, and then being able to do that in less than 3 clicks. So on the infringement side, whenever you need to have different types of infringements or changes, you'll need to update those forms accordingly. Did you recall any time in your tenure at Whitehorse where you had quite a lot of struggle to get even a small field changed or something like that in the past?
Yes, we have been through few forms, and the most recent one is an online form, which is again hard to change from hard copy to digital, but still not streamlined as the payable form. It is very intuitive.
So I think talking about some of the pains of this, across all this manual approach, you are going to get delays and missed payments. You're going to find that it's difficult to manage. Also, particularly for fines and infringements, many are written off. Auditing, say, the state of Victoria in particular, the average write-off was over 62%. So that's a lot of money, essentially, that's ignored. And there's a lot of stress from customers who just feel frustrated about the approach. So let's move through this now. So Whitehorse saw a couple of problems which we've touched on, and many of these are across the entire industry with that rising cost of living. So I think a couple of goals that we wanted to have here in working together was to try and integrate systems that didn't talk to each other. We wanted to reduce fees to those third-party providers when you do need to follow up. I think also that improved opportunity for cash flow, i.e. if more people are paying the fines and doing the right thing, I guess it's a form of community support, isn't it? Those people may have done something slightly naughty or made a mistake in most cases, but then they're helping to fund positive projects in the local area. And also positive feedback. No one wants to get a fine, no one really wants to pay one, but it is pretty amazing if someone could say, yes, that was actually an okay experience to rectify the matter. So just to recap it for everyone listening, if you were to experiment with this technology, you'd see that the amount of people that are in that severe case that need to be referred onwards should drop dramatically. And in this case, the cost benefit to council right now is around $6,000 a month and increasing. because every time they had to lodge, they would be paying that fee, which we mentioned before. So we see that the fee still would reduce because you'd have less referred, but the exact amount would slightly differ, as Raji said. But all in all, you'd have a net cash benefit, which is rare in these cases. You normally don't see that when we implement these kinds of solutions. And then there's a different flow-on effect with the cash flow. So this is a bit more difficult to model exactly, but I wanted to give you a rough kind of guide of how this would work. Is when you do refer these amounts, often a large proportion, on average, I see, as I said earlier, about 62%. This isn't Whitehorse's exact number here, but let's call it 50% or so gets written off. Then the remainder is generally recovered or partially recovered. So if this system is implemented, what you see is all the people who previously were getting referred are now paying in the background with payables, so they're no longer in this bucket. And then the amount that you're referring dramatically reduces because you have such a smaller component to then pursue to that next level. I think what we have tried to do together is automate a couple of processes just to save that time. So Ish, did you want to talk quickly about this and how it all gets started for the Whitehorse ratepayers?
So similarly to before, there's a call to action here. There's a QR code that people can scan. Another thing to note is that you actually don't need your notice to pay. There are other ways, so you're not heavily reliant. But another thing to note here is that you've got other payment methods that may have been pushed to the back and bringing the most cost-effective method to the front, which is direct debit arrangements via credit card or bank account. And it's coming into the sense. So pushing things such as your most popular BPay or AusPostPay to the back is creating a big cost saving for council.
So Ish, as well, we had a few other areas that we wanted to touch on. Obviously, direct debits are now completely created using the payable system rather than manually, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, especially when someone scans your QR code, they identify themselves in the first stage, and then all of their information is pre-populated, eliminating the need for manual data entry. And this can be seen by council. When we move past that stage, again, you've got the arrangements section where you can choose how you want to pay, and Whitehorse has opted in for weekly, fortnightly, and monthly. And there's also something down the very bottom of the page where you can, if you can't make these payments, you can elect an amount to pay that suits your circumstances. And this really helps because I think I read a study where that 93% of people are afraid to ask for help. So you can self-serve and get help without needing to pick up the phone.
What's interesting is with Payable, we're trying to trend towards this 70% number in 5 years. So getting the vast majority of your payments to be recurring, either via that direct debit via credit card or direct debit via bank account. And it's interesting because our New Zealand attendees today, maybe let us know if you're from New Zealand. I can see Joe's posted a beautiful comment. In New Zealand, we encounter councils that are 60 to 70% direct debit regular, and that's the standard. So it's interesting as we have two different markets, we have two different problems, but all using the same solution to get there. So in New Zealand, it tends to be more about convenience and customer experience and reducing manual work. Here we still have all those themes, but it's more of a newer idea to pay regularly. Most people are just looking at that notice and then choosing sporadically each year. Another thing that I wanted to mention too was the reduction in arrears, and this is an amazing outcome, and it basically comes into essence around how the platform works. So the existing amount from the year before is actually able to be combined with the current year's balance. So depending on the level of arrears, we can actually create a single amount to get that person closer to zero or even at zero by the end of the next financial year. And you've been seeing some impact from having this ability for the lagging arrears to be dealt with in the same payment, right?
So our collection rate, as you can see, is 95.63 for 24-25. If you took the balance of that, it's about 6 million, but we only added 1.5 to our overall debt, and that's because we collected over 5.7 million in arrears. So it's been a really good success story there.
Just to recap, now over 10,000 accounts are being paid on Payable via various means, because Payable can be used for one-off payments, not just the plans and the regular ones. But also, I think it's interesting, the satisfaction rate. Normally, when I'm paying more than a couple of $1,000s to a council, I'd have a grumpy face because I want to keep that money for my holiday when I eventually get one. Hopefully, the boss is watching. But if we look at this rate of 4.63, the average in local government is 3.1 or lower, according to Forrester. So Whitehorse is doing a good job in making people happy paying something they normally be grumpy about. In the interest of time, one thing you're going to cover is the different communications that are going out. So just to give everyone an idea, we have a couple of examples here. So Ish, do you want to take it away there?
Thank you. So through the admin portal that you can see on the left-hand side, this is typically used by a rates team. So if a ratepayer were to call, there are a few different messages that can be automatically sent out without the need of manually writing up an email. So setting up a plan is probably one of the most used ones. You can send that out to the person via mobile number once they've made a contact, and they can set up their own payment arrangement. This really helps with data security by not asking for personal information like their credit card details, which is probably the most effective one. Once this message comes through, say to your mobile phone, you'll see that there's a link there, and you just follow the prompts, and the person on the phone has the ability to walk them through them prompts, so they are supported the entire time. And as a person who uses Payable, you also get reminder messages based on triggers. So, hey, you've missed a payment. Hey, you've got an upcoming payment. Thank you for joining Payable. And I think I mentioned skipped a payment just a moment ago, so sorry for repeating myself. Another thing that I'd like to touch on is proactive repairs. Often, if a payment hasn't gone through, it's because funds are low. So a lot of the time, people are able to self-manage this, top up their account, and there's been a really positive turnover here where 86% of people are able to self-manage a missed payment. So you can imagine that this has a positive effect on councils where they're not maybe sending those letters out, they're not chasing for arrears, or they're not making those phone calls to say, hey, you've missed a payment. So I think these alerts are super effective in communicating to the ratepayer consistently and to the schedule that they've set.
In these webinars, we wanted to show more practically what Whitehorse has done and how they've united rates and infringements, how they've made a seamless customer experience for both together, which is groundbreaking, right? And we really think that that's an amazing achievement. There's also other areas where we can create this synchronicity, pets and permits, digital notices, and also you may use tools to message ratepayers and also people who receive fines. We've shown you today that many of those things can be automated already, but you can also do manual campaigns as well. So all these things, if they're of interest to you, that we have further material that we can show you, either one-on-one or at a later date as well.